Oof. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Tiffany and I am an intern school psychologist. Today I'm going to be talking about how to learn and administer assessments like a pro, and these assessments I'm talking about are cognitive and achievement assessments. So you can apply these skills to any assessment, I think. I guess we'll see as we're going through the list. These are the things that I applied when I was learning cognitive assessments my first semester of full psychology grad school. So number one, the first thing you want to do is to know what the test is used for and basically what it measures. There's so many tests out there that assess so many different things. So cognitive ability, academic achievement, social emotional, rating scales, and projective measures. There's just so many things out there, so you want to make sure you know what it's measuring. Hopefully in your classes, your assessment class, you talk about what those assessments are and what they're used for, but if you're learning something new or if you need a refresher, you can go and do your research online, or you can look at the manual and it should tell you what it's used for and like the history behind it, etc. So that brings me to point number two. You want to make sure you read the manual, and that might seem like a given, but I'm telling you, it gives you all the information that you need. Sometimes it can be kind of annoying to look through the manual because they're super thick, or there's like 5 different instruction manuals and supplemental books, and it could seem so overwhelming. But make sure you get through the introduction section that kind of goes over what it's used for, and then also the instructions. Most testing manuals come with instructions, and so they tell you exactly what to say, what to do. They describe each subtest and give you all these rules, and so it's really important to read through all of those sections to know what you're doing and know what you're administering. So in the test manual, it'll give you instructions for what to say, like verbatim, to the child or whoever you're administering the test to. And basically you shouldn't stray away from the wording that's in the text, because that makes it, the text in the manual makes it standardized, and that's so important because we want to make sure that how we're giving the test, how we're administering the test is the same for all examiners and all situations, because that'll make sure that the scores are accurate. And that's important because we're making big decisions out there. Not only do you have to know what the test measures, but you want to also know what each subtest measures, because within a test there are different areas and abilities that each subtest measures, and you want to know what correlates with what like which ones are different. And you only know all of that by reading through the manual. And this will also help you with your report writing later when you have to report the scores, by knowing what each subtest measures and what each subtest means, and how one subtest might measure the same thing as another subtest, but how they're also different. And so I find just reading the manual so valuable. I mean, that's why it's there, right? Like, it gives you all the instructions and everything you need. The third thing to do when you're learning a new assessment is to practice with a friend or read it out loud. So practice by yourself out loud, or practice with a friend or a practice child or a client. And that, I know it's super time consuming, but it will help you so much, because when you're just reading the manual straight through, you're like, oh, okay, you're learning, you're like, oh, I understand that, whatever. But then when you actually practice it in real time with someone else in front of you, you kind of get the feel of how the testing goes and what kind of responses the child can give you. Like if something has like a time limit and you have to mark something and look at something at the same time, to kind of see how all of that works and happens simultaneously is really important, because you don't want to like not practice and then have your first client or test a child and be scrambling and confused because you never practice. And so that is so important and so necessary. It's just like how doctors have to practice medicine, and they can't just perform surgery right after reading the textbook. They have to be an intern, be a student, and be a resident, and they practice little by little. They watch a lot and they practice for years before actually becoming a surgeon. This is the same thing, except we're not dealing with blood and surgery, but we are dealing with big decisions here. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly and it's all standardized. And even if you don't have a friend, just read it out loud and just act like you're doing it. Literally, if something is timed, I set out my timer, I read it out loud, I put all the testing material, I act like someone is there. Like, just make sure you go through the motions. I found that to be really helpful, at least for me personally. The fourth tip and the fourth thing you should do, and this will kind of round out the whole process, is to take notes and make notes for the test. So for some of our manuals that we use in the clinic, there's little sticky notes, or people highlight when it's like a blurb that the examiners have to say, because sometimes it gets kind of confusing for what we have to say and what we have to do. We'll have people highlight the text that we're supposed to read verbatim, and so it sticks out and we don't miss anything. That's really important. And then we'll put little sticky notes for each subtest, and so we know exactly where to flip to. Also, making notes on your protocols can be very, very helpful, so you know when to start and stop, your basal and ceiling points, just to give you some extra visual cues to help streamline the whole assessment process. And some subtests and some tests in general have really strange rules or really weird wording for those rules, and so just making sure you're familiar with them and making notes, I just find them extremely helpful, because especially in the beginning, or if it's a test that you've never given before, it could be really nerve-wracking, and when you're in that like nervous state, you're already like scrambling and trying to make sure you don't mess up. Having those extra helpful tips or hints, it will help the assessment process go way smoother. An example of making a note on a protocol is there's different start points on WISC protocols for different ages, and so before seeing the child, I will look at their file, look for the age, and then I'll highlight their start points for every subtest. So those are my 4 simple tips to learning new assessments. And when you're new to it, when you're a beginner, when you're giving your first assessment, it's okay to go slow. When my classmates and I started giving WISCs, the WISC-V, for our practicum, it took us a really, really long time with our first client, just because we were learning and we wanted to make sure we didn't mess up. We also had to give all 14 subtests because they wanted us to get that experience, and I thought it was super time consuming but really good practice. Yeah, I think initially it took some of us like over 3 hours to administer one test. But with time, with practice, becoming more seasoned, you'll feel so much more comfortable. It'll come more naturally to you and you might enjoy it. I love testing and interacting with children and administering these exams. I find it really fun and it gives you some good, valuable information. Hey guys, so I wanted to include one more point, and this is just a consideration, but it's multicultural considerations and also language considerations. It might not affect how you test, but it will impact how you interpret the test results. And so if a child is bilingual or if they're English language learners, that is really important because most of these tests are administered in English, and there is a lot of language loading and even cultural loading that happens in these tests, so we have to be careful when we interpret it. Also, to be mindful of behavioral observations when you're giving these tests. So I'm just giving you guys these considerations because although it doesn't impact how you learn the tests, there are things that you want to consider when you're practicing, and also when you're giving your first test, you want to make sure you're observing the child's behaviors during each subtest, during breaks, how they interact with you, eye contact, their pencil grip, all of that stuff, because that could impact the scores and how you interpret everything. Also, going back to the second point about reading the manual, it also gives you instructions on how you should sit and set up the testing environment, and that's also really important because some tests have like easels, some tests you're supposed to have a book flat, some tests are given on the iPad, and so making sure you're taking all of those things into consideration when you're preparing to give these assessments is really, really important, and you want to make sure you're comfortable when you're giving these assessments. So make sure you practice how to sit, how to set up the test, yeah, all of that. And for cultural considerations, of course, like you'll hopefully interview the parent or have the student file, but it's also really helpful to have a short conversation with the child beforehand to build rapport and to get some background on them. And you can get a lot of good information just from short conversations with the child. So you can ask them how their day's going, what their favorite classes, you know, short questions like that. And back to the video. You know, spend those hours reading the manual, making your notes, and practicing. I don't know if that's helpful. I guess they're kind of basic tips, but by just doing those things, I was able to really get a good grasp of these assessments, and now I feel like a pro for some of them, and I only completed 2 years. I'm really grateful that we had an opportunity to practice in our clinics, but that's about it. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with these tips, and if you have any additional tips that you want to add. That would be amazing. That would help me out, that would help the community out, and I would really appreciate that. And that's a wrap. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!